Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Scholar of renown Ibn Janjawi, edited by Adil Falahi. Hamid ibn Makhlad ibn Qutayba of Nasa in Khurasan or Persia belonged to the same town as Imam Nasai, the renowned hadith scholar. The two were contemporaries, but Ibn Janjawi was the older scholar. He was born around 180 after Hijrah, corresponding to Common Era 796. He is better known as Ibn Janjawi, which was his father's nickname. As travel in pursuit of learning and study was the mark of scholarship at that time, Ibn Janjawi travelled much. Apparently, he started his travel at an early age, probably when he was a young man in his teens. This is mentioned by his teacher, Al-Qasim ibn Sallam, who mentions him as one of the two most distinguished young scholars coming from Persia. His travel took Ibn Janjawi to the most important learning centers at the time, notably Iraq, Hijaz, Syria, and Egypt. In each of these, he visited the main cities to study under the most famous scholars of his time. In Syria, for example, he studied under scholars in Damascus, Homs, and Caesarea, a coastal town. He also traveled to Naisapur and taught there. Some of these cities and areas he visited more than once. We know for certain that he visited Baghdad and Egypt at least twice each. These travels and the fact that he started them early ensured for Ibn Janjawi the privilege of study under a large number of scholars of the highest caliber. Perhaps his main teacher was Al-Qasim ibn Sallam, who died in 224 after Hijrah, who was a renowned scholar of the Quran and Hadith as well as Fiqh. He also studied under Imam Ahmad ibn Anbal and other famous scholars, but Ibn Janjawi taught and reported Hadith and became well known as a reliable teacher. He had many students who were keen to learn under him. Again, his travels increased the number of his students as he taught practically in all areas where he stayed for some time. Indeed, some of his students were to be among the highest ranking scholars in their fields of specialty. Thus, in Hadith, his students included the two famous Hadith scholars, Abu Dawud and An-Nasai. Not only so, but both Al-Bukhari and Muslim are said to have attended him and reported some of the Hadith they heard from him. However, Imam Ibn Azur and Ad-Dahabi make it clear that neither scholar includes in his Sahih collection any Hadith he heard from Ibn Janjawi. They mention such Hadith in their other works. This does not detract from Ibn Janjawi's reliability. There are many Hadith reporters of the highest degree of reliability, yet they are not quoted in either Sahih. Indeed, numerous are the major scholars who have spoken of his high standing and assured reliability in the reporting and transmission of Hadith. We are aware of at least 3 books by Ibn Janjawi. 2 of these have been lost. One is a book of admonition and the other discusses the Prophet's manner and moral standards. His other book is known as Al-Amwal or Types of Property. This is largely a book of fiqh devoted to the discussion of the rules and rulings related to property and what may be enforced in respect of each type of people's possession. This book has been edited by Dr. Zakir Fayyad and published in 1986 by King Faisal Center of Research and Islamic Studies. Ibn Janjawi was no doubt one of the earliest Islamic scholars to write a book on this subject. Indeed, his teacher Al-Qasim ibn Sallam had written a book on the same subject. Ibn Janjawi follows the footsteps of his teacher in the arrangement of his book, dividing it largely into the same chapters, giving most of them the same heading. This applies particularly to the first part of the book, but later on, Ibn Janjawi adds chapters not mentioned by his teacher. In practically every chapter, Ibn Janjawi quotes a number of hadith which have not been mentioned by Ibn Sallam. This represents a valuable addition because it provides a major contribution to the subject under discussion. However, we should not understand from this that all the hadith mentioned in Ibn Sallam's book are quoted by Ibn Janjawi. Some hadith he leaves out. Moreover, when he mentions a hadith quoted by Ibn Sallam, he often chooses a different chain of transmission, which adds to the reliability of the hadith. Another point to be mentioned with regard to the two books is that Ibn Janjawi often mentions Ibn Sallam's view on a particular question without commenting on it. This means that he endorses his teacher's view. This means that he endorses his teacher's view after having studied it and compared it with the views of other scholars. He is ready to express a different view whenever he feels this to be necessary. It is to be remembered that Ibn Janjawi was very keen to attribute any view he mentions or any statement he quotes to its source. Thus, he shows a remarkable degree of disciplined scholarship. The author speaks in the early chapters about the nature of well-being in the Islamic State, which ensures social justice for all citizens. An essential requirement in such a state is justice in the broadest sense of the word. Injustice is contrary to the basic principles of Islam. And a major factor that contributes to such justice and to the general well-being in an Islamic state is the requirement of giving good counsel, as the Prophet says. The book discusses in detail the nature of a Muslim government responsibility, the main characteristics of the Muslim community, and the interaction between the state and the people. The book shows the great emphasis Islam gives to proper and just distribution of wealth and resources in an Islamic state. Ibn Janjawi died in Egypt in 251 after Hijrah. May God shower His mercy on him.